Here are two people. The first is a nurse. Every pound she earns arrives with the tax already taken. Income tax, national insurance, deducted at source. Over a working life, she'll hand over hundreds of thousands of pounds, and she will never once be asked nicely. The second is a gentleman whose family owns, among other things, the building the nurse rents a flat in. Last year, his fortune grew by more than the nurse will earn in a decade. His tax bill on that growth was, and Arthur checked this several times, nothing. Not through crime, through design. This is the story of the strangest question in British politics. Why does Britain tax work so hard and wealth so gently? And why, whenever anyone suggests changing that, does the roof fall in? Start with how the machine is built. Wages are taxed the moment they exist, up to 45% at the top, plus national insurance, collected before the money ever reaches its owner. Wealth is different. Wealth mostly grows by assets getting more valuable. Shares, property, land. And that growth is only taxed when you sell, under something called capital gains tax. The tax on the profit when you sell a thing for more than you paid for it. Two things to know about it. If you never sell, you never pay. And when you do, the top rate is well below the tax on wages, which produces the founding absurdity of the whole system. A pound earned on a night shift is taxed more heavily than a pound earned by a painting while it hung on a wall. Arthur stood in a gallery and watched a painting earn more than everyone looking at it combined. The painting was not tired. But it gets better, or worse, depending on your portfolio, because the system has doors in it, and the wealthy know where they are. Door 1, never sell. Remember, no sale, no tax. So instead of selling, you borrow. A gentleman with 50 million in shares borrows, say, 2 million against them, the way you'd borrow against a house. The interest is a few percent, far less than the tax would have been. And because a loan is not income, the 2 million arrives completely untaxed, while the shares sit at home, quietly growing. The nurse, whose wealth is next Friday's payslip, has nothing to borrow against. Dr. 2 is stranger. Die. When you die, the capital gains on your assets are simply forgiven. Say your shares grew from 1 million to 10 over your lifetime. 9 million of profit, never taxed because you never sold. Die, and your heirs inherit them as if they'd always been worth 10. So the full strategy writes itself. Borrow while alive, hold until death. And it works so reliably, the trade has a cheerful nickname for it: buy, borrow, die. Door 3 is geography. Put the assets in a trust, a legal box where you place your fortune so that on paper you no longer own it. The box does. Park the box in the Cayman Islands or Jersey, and questions like, whose money is this, become wonderfully difficult to answer. None of this is illegal. That is rather the point. The rules were written this way, and the people they favor can afford the very best readers of rules. Meanwhile, the government has been raising taxes on everyone else while promising not to. The trick is the frozen threshold. You start paying income tax above £12,570, a line frozen back in 2021, while prices and wages have moved plenty. Same for the line where the higher rate begins. Your pay creeps up, the lines stay put, and millions of ordinary people get pulled over them. Nurses on the higher rate, pensioners taxed on modest pensions, without a single chancellor ever announcing a tax rise. It's a tax rise that works by doing nothing. Nobody voted for it. It has raised tens of billions. So, enter the wealth tax, the idea that will not die. The current proposal fits on a postcard. Around 2% a year on individual fortunes above £10 million. Not your house, not your pension, not your gran. Roughly 20,000 people for an estimated 20-odd billion a year. And the moment anyone says it out loud, 3 objections arrive. And some of them are good. Objection 1. They'll leave. There's something in this. When Norway raised its wealth tax, a procession of millionaires really did move to Switzerland, and it made a dent. But look closer. Studies keep finding that far fewer actually leave than threaten to. The business, the schools, the family all hold people in place. And the things Britain's wealthy own most of, land, property, stakes in British companies, cannot leave. The house in Belgravia stays in Belgravia, whoever owns it and wherever they sulk. Other countries handle the rest with an exit tax, a final bill on your untaxed gains, settled at the departure gate. So, a real cost, usually exaggerated, partly fixable. Half a point to the objectors. Objection 2. It's unworkable. You'd need an army of valuers pricing every painting and every racehorse every year. This one is genuinely hard. Valuation rows are what kill wealth taxes. But 2 awkward facts. Britain already values entire fortunes, art included, every time someone dies. That's how inheritance tax works. And Switzerland has run an annual wealth tax for over a century without drama, by keeping it simple. Broad rules, low rates, no clever exemptions. Hard is not impossible. It's just expensive to do badly. Objection 3, the big one. Everyone tried it. Everyone gave up. In 1990, a dozen European countries had wealth taxes. Today you can count them on one hand. That graveyard is real. But read the headstones. The taxes that died mostly died the same way. Thresholds so low they hit the moderately comfortable. And exemptions so generous the genuinely rich slipped through. Lots of hassle, little revenue, quiet abolition. The survivors did the opposite. So the graveyard may not prove that wealth taxes fail. It may prove that badly designed ones do, which is true of everything, including bridges. Though the objectors are owed this, Britain designing a tax badly is not historically a remote possibility. And underneath the whole shouting match sits one quiet fact neither side can make go away. Over the last few decades, Britain's private wealth has roughly doubled compared to the size of its economy. The tax collected from wealth has barely moved. The pie changed shape. The knife didn't. Whatever you think should happen, tax gains like income end the forgiveness at death, bring in the levy or leave it alone, and cut spending instead. That fact is where the real argument lives. Everything else is scenery. Arthur walked home past the gallery, past the private bank, past the nurse's bus stop, and did what Arthur does. He didn't shout. He simply noticed that the nurse's tax is collected before breakfast, while the gentleman's is a matter of ongoing debate, and that when a country arranges things that way for long enough, it stops being an accident and becomes a decision. Britain will make its decision in a budget or a leadership contest or a decade of not deciding, which is also a decision. Arthur, for his part, checked his own assets. One scarf. Magnificent. Unvalued. And he was pleased to note, entirely exempt.